Good morning, everybody. It's Mike Bays from the 24/7 Home Show. Today we have a very special guest, Jeff Caesar, who is the Vice President over at Blue Sky Remodeling and Basements, and we're talking about the process of converting a crawl space to a basement, which has been coming up more and more frequently. So good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing great. Hey, it doesn't come up a lot normally, but why would someone dig out their crawl space to make a basement? And what are the reasons you've seen for that?
We've run into several different reasons, depending on your neighborhood is the biggest driver of where or the reasons people are doing them. And a good portion of the ones in the older historical or landmark, however you want to phrase it, areas of Denver, Landmark has changed their rules and is not allowing people to pop the top, go up, or go back to the extent that they used to. And a lot of people buy those houses and are looking to expand their family and need extra bedrooms or bathrooms or just more living spaces as their family grows. And so we're finding the crawl space conversion to be a viable option for them so they can gain the space that they need to without interfering with the requirements or the denials that'll happen from Landmark. The other areas that I'm seeing in, I guess you say, quote unquote, a little bit newer, well, quite a bit, stuff built in the 80s and such, people are finding that their home equities are up quite a bit. And while they want to expand, the new places that they're looking at are so much more expensive. They can't get the same kind of value from the place that they're at, use some of their equity, and they can get the extra square footage that they desire. There's a lot of homes that were built in the 80s and 90s that are, and even now, that are half basement, half crawl space, and people, if they didn't have them built and done the way they want them, they want to take advantage of that extra space. And so we'll dig out the crawl spaces or, 8-foot ceilings. People sometimes are wanting to go to 9 or 10 foot. And those are the primary reasons that are seeing for.
Okay. So it's usually kind of a specialty situation where they're Landmark, they really can't go up. They like the new space. They love where they live. I've heard this before. Hey, we love where we live. We can't find anything to go buy that's reasonable. So I can't go up, so why don't we just dig out this crawl space and get it done? Or is it usually older homes that you see this in primarily?
Primarily the older homes in Denver proper, but as I was mentioning, over in some of the 30, 40-year-old neighborhoods and things of that nature, they still have pretty strict covenants, and they're not able to put an addition on it, and they have the crawl space under there, so they're capitalizing on that crawl space area to take advantage of that, to get the extra room that they want.
Okay, so I'm in that situation. What are the steps I have to go through, or you have to go through as a contractor, to dig out a basement? It sounds easy. I was actually looking online the other day for some information on it, and one of the sites was like, dig out the dirt first and then put it in a wheelbarrow. It's like, it's not really that easy. What are those steps that they're going to go through to convert that crawl space?
Well, the steps that we will have to go through, the first thing would be I would come out and meet with the prospective client, get a look at what they have, figure out their exact needs, how they want to utilize it, etc. Go down, we'd get an idea of how many square feet we need to remove, what's in the way, different pieces, because generally you end up with a new water heater and new furnace. Those things don't hit where they do. Your staircase, a lot of times changes coming from your main floor, and we need to see if that's going to have impact into the main level living area because a lot of the staircases in these older homes are not code compliant. They're not wide enough, so we need to take a piece of the main floor upstairs to get them so we can put in a code compliant staircase that goes down. Those are a lot of the big things. After that, depending on the scope of what they want to do, is if we were able to design it in house or if we need to get with an architect. A lot of times we can take care of the design in-house. Then after that would be, once we have a design put together, would be getting with the engineer, because there's different methods for digging them out depending on what the foundation is. In the older areas of Denver that have stone or brick for the foundation, they have very shallow, maybe a 1 foot deep underground with their existing walls. So we'll need the engineer specifications on how we would have to shore it up to keep the house from falling down while you're digging with it. Pretty important. You don't want to lose your house while you're trying to add space to it. So, we work with the engineers to get through that and finalize on where, the level of finishes, kind of things that the homeowners would want and what they want to utilize it for, and really work on those pieces to pull it together for them.
So you're going to dig it out. Once you do that, you're going to have a crew or whatever methodology you use to dig out the dirt, right?
Mhm.
And during that process, you're going to support the foundation of the home or some manner or another. The other thing I don't think people think about is like they've got their hot water down there, and they have their furnace down there. How do you keep, as you're digging, how do you keep that hot water working and that furnace working?
The ways that we did to get around that, you might be down on your furnace or hot water heater for a few hours on the day that a couple things are getting modified. You would know in advance on that. So if it's something while we're able to do it while you're at work, great. If it's going to leak overnight, or not leak, but if the time is going to roll into the next day, we would let you know, and it'd be your choice if you wanted to stay or if you wanted to stay in a hotel or something of that nature that night. But other than that, until we have it all the way dug out and the new slab and foundation and things poured, we generally suspend the water heater and the furnace. We strap them up and they hang off the ceiling. We have to support them, but they hang from the ceiling. We hook them back up so you continue to have heat and hot water through the process. And then when it comes to setting up those new utility areas, we get them set in place and redo it before we cut the old ones off. So we really try to minimize the time that you're down without your conveniences of heat and hot water.
Okay. And how long is it going to take to dig out a crawl space, do you think? Normal, I'm not sure if there's such a thing as normal, but if the actual process of like digging, that's manual, right? Those are just guys digging.
It is guys with shovels and Home Depot buckets putting the dirt on a conveyor, and it is 5-gallon bucket work. There's very few places. Sometimes it works, but it's not as common to be able to get a hole in the exterior of the foundation and be able to drive a mini, the technical term is skid steer, but a lot of people know them as backhoes. If we can get, or not backhoes, I apologize, bobcats. If we can get a small one of those down in there, it happens probably about 10% of the time. Other than that, you're correct. It's probably darn near 6 to 8 weeks of just straight up digging buckets of dirt out of a place.
So it's going to be a little disruptive, like any construction project. You're going to have noise and dirt and things happening through your backyard or wherever that happens. So are there special permits needed for a crawl space? Or I don't know if it's special, but what permits do you run into that you're going to need?
We'll need a new sewer and underground permit because those items are going to change because we're changing the height of the floor where those pieces are going through. So we run new of those. We need those permits. Other than that, it's similar to the permit that we would get for new construction, or if we were doing an addition or adding a second story onto a home or something like that. It's a similar to a new, or what's the exact word they'd use for it, a remodel permit, but a more involved construction remodel permit. There's different levels of licenses that you need to hold for it, and we do. I mean, this one is you can get with a standard Class C license, but I don't know if there's anything super special about the permitting other than it's a pretty involved review process going through, and we have to have a lot of structural and engineering pieces like that is the main part and follow their requirements.
So is it a long process as far as the permit process?
Depends on your municipality. In Denver, once you have your drawings and all your stuff from your engineer, which could take up to a couple months to get through all the pieces we need, the permit review process in Denver is around 60 to 90 days. Other municipalities are sometimes a little bit less because they just have a little more, they're not as busy as Denver proper.
So really, if I'm thinking of doing this, you've got to plan. I mean, the actual process is probably going to be 6 to 8 weeks of dig out. And then if you're going to finish the basement, you've got 2 months of that. So you've got 4 months of that. You've got permit. You're really looking 7 to 8 months out before you're going to have a finished basement, if I'm hearing you correctly.
At least I'd say from the time that you start, unless you have your plans, from the time I first show up at your home till we get under construction is probably 5 to 6 months till we get going, then probably 4. So I'd plan closer to 9 or so to it's not an immediate quick turnaround. It does take time.
That's important. I think some folks just think, 2 weeks out, you start digging. So there is some time frame and planning involved. So then we get to that point that by the way, I'd like to thank my sponsor, Diet Coke, today. They're not my sponsor, but I do love them. That being said, what's this going to cost? I mean, that's what everybody always wants to know. I know it's impossible to answer that, but in general, what do you see as far as total costs of two things? One, just digging it out and creating a basement, and then two, actually digging it out, creating a basement, and finishing that basement. What do you see, or what would you tell folks on that?
If I was gonna, and I'm gonna use Denver, an older Denver home for an example of this, just because they're pretty consistent on the square feet. They usually have about a 500 to 700 foot crawl space with a couple 300 part of fit that's already dug it. Well, it won't be tall enough. They're probably about 6 feet or so to where the existing is, and that has to be lower anyway for code now as they're implementing that 2017 code. So basically off of 1,000 square feet, let's call it 1,000 square foot finished area. If we just dug it out and didn't finish it all the way, just did to where we had to go with the just a concrete slab, we would need to update all the electrical wiring, the plumbing pipes, all the pieces that are affected in that while it's going on. I would say a realistic expectation for cost on that without finishing it at all would probably be around, I'd say 110 to 125,000 to get to that point. If you went into where you're going to finish it after that, it would be your level of finish that you choose, and we prefer to go to a middle upper level of finish, which is what you'd witness on our website and things like that. That would probably put you in the 150 to 160, 65 grand for to get a pretty decent level of finish. And the ones that we finish, the typical things, and they vary. We go very specific on what homeowners want, but a lot of times down there, that's either 2 bedrooms or a bedroom and a living room, rec room type area, a bathroom and a laundry room, and some storage area around there. This is the typical ones that people have in those. So that'd be a realistic expectation.
So it may sound expensive to some folks, but the reality is that's not a lot different than new space would cost you if you bought a new nice home, right?
Correct. And say, if you're going to parallel in the same house in the neighborhoods that people are doing things, you'd look at, say, you're going to weigh this against doing a pop top or something like that, adding the second story. A pop top for 1,000 square feet that typically want the same thing. You need to put an extra bathroom up on that floor, but there'll be 2 or 3 bedrooms, a laundry room, a master bath, and another bathroom. Something like that is really probably closer to about 200 or 225,000. And then you have to relocate. You got to be out of your house for that 4 to 5 months. When you're doing the crawl space conversion to basement, yes, while it's a little disruptive, we really do what we can to keep all the dirt and dust contained. Can't promise all of it will stay in the basement, but we go to great lengths to try to keep it down there. And you can still live in your house if you can put up with the during the weekday noise. A lot of people aren't home while we're doing it anyway, and so they don't have to spend the extra 10 to 15, 20,000 to relocate, also like it would be if you're doing a pop top or an addition type thing. So it's all in. It's probably about 75 or 100,000 cheaper even with all your expenses and everything to go down as opposed to going up.
That's a really good comparison. I never thought of that. Popping the top versus crawl space conversion. And I should note, and I've said this many times before, it's like you don't want a company to do a crawl space to basement conversion that's not very experienced at it. It's kind of a unique field. And you guys at Blue Sky, and I've worked with you for many years. One, you've done, I think, 500 basements, and you've done crawl space conversions, and you build custom homes, and you're truly very experienced general contractors. So the guy who, not putting anybody down, but the guy who's never done one, who's done a few basements and some decks, is probably, their prices may sound a lot less. They aren't going to be, generally. They just don't know how to bid this in the process of it. So if you're thinking of doing a crawl space to basement conversion, whether it's Blue Sky basements or someone else, go with someone who, at least in my opinion, has the experience to get it done. So Jeff, how do they get hold of you? You want me to give your information, or did you want to give the information on how to call you if they have more questions? Or
yeah, I can give you my phone number now, and then you can back it up on our website with, put my phone number and email on there so they can get a hold of us. My phone number is 506-8439. Again, my name is Jeff Caesar. Last name is Caesar. Feel free to give me a call whenever you'd like, and we can set up a time to get together, and we can come out, or I'll come out and we'll verify your pre-existing conditions and talk about what you need to do. And and Mike brought up a really good point right there on cost, as opposed to if you have experience in doing these, or if you don't, it makes a big difference. We go through a lot of detail. The first proposal we bring out is about 6 pages long to go through in detail all the different areas that we're going to affect. So you got an idea of cost from concrete to excavation to framing material, et cetera, all the way down the line. One of the biggest things that we try to avoid at almost all costs is we don't want to try to bid this thing low knowing that we're going to need another 30 grand to get it done. We're going to give you a fair and very upfront and direct proposal on what it is, and spend time to go through it and explain to you why and the benefits, or if it's not going to work, absolutely we'll let you know there might be better options with things like that. So we'll share very freely, and we'll get you the information you want to need and work with you to make it your personalized space.
Very good, Jeff. Hey, I really appreciate you joining us today on the 24/7 Home Show. Up on the screen is the Blue Sky website. You can, interestingly enough, even if you're just interested in basement finishing, they have a basement finishing estimator on that site, which gets a lot of traffic and is very it's probably the best one in the nation, I think. But you can go to blueskyremodelingdenver.com or blueskybasements.com, find their website and kind of explore there too. You can also call them directly at 303-500-3103, where they can give you more information. Jeff, thanks very much for your time. We're going to have you back because you're a guy who really knows your stuff, and that's what we really love here. So we will talk to you next time. And again, thank you for your time, Jeff. You have a great day, okay?
All right, you too. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, buddy.